Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome. I would like to tell my viewers a brief introduction about myself. My name is Rekha Chandra, founder of Gyan Paradise. And today we have in this knowledge series a very eminent personality, Mr. Balachandran. Welcome, sir.
Sir, thank you.
I would like to tell my viewers that Mr. P. Balachandran is a retired L&D head of Saraswat Bank. With his vast experience of over 47 years in banking and finance, he has served many institutions, prestigious institutions, in fact, including Reserve Bank of India, Union Bank of India, Indian Institute of Banking and Finance, and has been a faculty for nearly 40 years. He's published many articles and research papers and has five books to his credit, if I'm right, yes? And those include Winning the Game of Life, Nurturing Excellence, Making a Difference, Living and Leaving Gracefully, plus Chasing Success. What a wonderful, wonderful profile, and what a huge achievement, Mr. Balachandran. Really an honor to host you here and have your insights regarding this series of learning and development.
Thank you.
So, sir, I would like to start with this question that owing to disruptions that we are witnessing nowadays, customer needs are evolving. So, what changes in learning and development are proving beneficial to the customers as well as the banking officials?
Yeah, a very open question, if I may say so, because this word disruption itself is open for a wide interpretation. However, there is a thinking that disruption has only come recently. When I say recently, means post 2000. Along with this mobile banking and digital banking, this is how where we say that disruption is associated with. But I will take the subject a little backwards. To say 1969.
Okay.
When the banks were nationalized in 1969, the real disruption started. And thereafter, if you ask a senior banker who has seen through that 69 through till now, they will say that every year was one of disruption. Starting with banking nationalization, social banking, and type of banking which evolved in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were unbelievable and which were not seen in any part of the world. So the disruptions is not new to the Indian banking employee and the customer. That's one thing I wanted to mention.
True. And I can relate with it when demonetization happened.
Yes. And if I say the finality was demonetization, but now I'll say the finality was COVID actually. Okay. Demonetization brought about a complete disruption. Okay. But now COVID has totally disrupted everything completely. Till something like this happens in future. Let us hope something won't happen like that. So the point here is how we are leveraging and how the customer expectations have gone up or the customers are treated. So the greatest challenge faced by this sector was actually from the angle of the regulator himself. When you say regulator, it is not Reserve Bank of India alone I'm talking about. I'm talking about Government of India itself. If you see through our Indian banking, Indian development itself for the last 40-50 years, public has a lot of expectation from government and Reserve Bank of India. And that necessitated a new policies which came as a disruption, not only to the customer, but also to the employees. The expectation from the employees have gone up so much over the last 40 years. It's not easy to work in a bank today. But how many people have got a sympathy for the bank employee That's a $1 million question. But what all changes have happened? If old people like us go to the bank today, and if they relate to our banking with today's banking, it will be something like, visiting an alien country itself. We will not be able to relate it. Are you getting? But the very fact that the bank employees and customers both have adapted over this particular period of time, it shows the resilience of our Indian banking on the one side and the role played by Government of India on the one side and Reserve Bank of India on the other side. But for the far-reaching policies adapted by them, this preparedness would not have taken place. So this disruption is, though a beautiful word, Indian population, Indian bankers in general, have adapted to it very well. Same case with ditto with customers. If you go to a rural branch of India today, even in the rural bank, all this digitalization is taking place. When this new government came into power, I'm talking about new government from 2014 onwards, the disruption happened was, the major disruption was, before demonetization, was what is called opening of Jan Dhan accounts. Jan Dhan account for all the deprived people. The current government, Modi government, stated that every householder should have a bank account. Something phenomenal. And he set a target, I think within 3 months, we should have 1 crore account or something. But it was, crossed easily by the Indian bankers then. And over the last 4 or 5 years, now the number of accounts, in fact, one can say with almost certainty that every Indian is having a bank account today.
True.
And that was a prelude to demonetization. And also now it has come as a blessing in disguise in this COVID era, where people have not been able to move out of their house. Even payment for vegetables are made through digital board.
Exactly.
It would not have taken place, but for the far-reaching decision of Modi government of 2014. The previous governments have also done their level best. We are talking about the major disruption. So I am coming back to not metro or urban clientele like us, or the so-called sophisticated and educated and IT savvy customers. I am talking about the rural customers. Even if you go to the most so-called backward areas of India, there also you will find they are carrying a RuPay card. You will find an ATM branch, an ATM. So the disruption has been so widespread and so welcomed. And now you take the case of the other disruption called mobile banking.
Exactly.
Let's not come to mobile banking. Mobile itself. There was a statistics all I think 2 years back. Over 100 crore Indians are having mobiles. 100 crore. Can we think about that number? 100 crore Indians. I remember that particular declaration. Now, I am sure a majority of them will be also having mobile banking. Now I understand many of the people have not visited their bank at all for a number of years. Every transaction is completed through mobile or internet. So disruption of the highest level. I remember seeing an article, a video presentation by Nandan Nilekani. I think it is of somewhere like 2007 or something of that period. There he talked about these disruptions. He said disruptions have not started in Indian banking or financial sector. It's all waiting to happen. And whatever he has stated, we used to show it in our training colleges. And I remember whatever he has mentioned, 99% has come true, either through compulsion or through volunteering. So this journey which has started, as I mentioned, ever since 1969, is still continuing. Like Ganges flowing. Disruption is not a one-time affair. Every day there is a disruption. Like the T20 coming and disrupting the 5-day, test matches. Every day new thing. So no banker is worried about it. He's prepared. He's only waiting to see what is the new development. Ditto with customers. He is also, contactless, banking. They were only clamoring for contactless banking 1 year back. Now it has really become contactless banking, contactless ATM, everything contactless, including people are not contacting each other now. You follow? So
Interesting thing I noticed was that cash deposit,
yes,
the cash deposit that
to the
now
machine.
customer is doing on his own.
Yes.
Yes, sir, please.
So what I'm saying here is the developments have been now, a couple of years back, I was in US and I happened to see there what is called walk-in, drive-in branches. So the concept was totally new to me. I have not seen the, I know drive-in theaters, driving, hotels and all I have seen, cafe and all, but I have not seen driving branch. And being a banker, I was interested and I went there along with somebody and I found from the car they were, operating the ATM machine without getting down. And I also saw from the car they were interacting with the branch staff. And the cash and the credit card and all used to be put into a particular tray. And that used to be sucked into the branch. And they used to talk through the mobile. I was amazed. When I returned, that was in 2018, I proposed that idea to, some bankers in India. I thought that somebody will pick it up. But then, we are not at time for that. But that's something which I am waiting to happen, driving bank branches. First of all, of course, the branch will have to be, remodified. On a first floor, you can't have a drive-in, drive-in branch, But there are so many branches which are amenable to drive-in banking. What I'm trying to say here is, so many developments are now this iris banking. Who thought like that? When you walk into the bank, you need not give any details. By looking at you through your eyes, they can capture you. You are so and so. This is your profile. They can even find out why you have come, or they can ask. This I have seen some 10 years back somewhere. This advertisement or thing in a banking conference. It's all come true. So what's happening is in the world over, developments are taking place, and slowly it is penetrating to our country. I remember seeing in a conference, a housewife, a person is ordering everything from the kitchen. So there was something, attached to the, fridge, and, from there the ordering was done. So when it was presented in that particular, seminar, it came as a bolt from the blue, but it has now become almost a reality. Who thought of this Amazon type of, things delivering at home, Geo? So like that, banking has also undergone tremendous changes, and this disruption, of course, the modern people are saying, let us have more and more disruption. And I think we always forget this disruption is a negative word. Actually, there is nothing positive about disruption. Though we are trying to make it, it is positive. It has got its own problems, which we will discuss in the course of it. But what I wanted to say here is, what was started in 1969 has been well adapted by both the customers and the bankers. And they will continue to adapt. People are saying only when COVID has come, let something else come. We will take it up head on, This is what the world is now telling. Am I right or not? Now we have come out. We are now talking with a mask on. Otherwise, can you think about people are serving in the bags and everywhere with the mask on? How can banking be done under mask? That is another disruption. Can you imagine that, right? So what all things have come about it? It's all interesting,
It's interesting.
Yes.
In fact, the point was well raised by you. I was thinking, how was it that senior people, people who are not tech savvy, how are they adapting themselves within the banking patterns?
No, this particular question is now little jaded, It
Yes.
is somewhat
How they have
dated.
learned.
Thinking, when the computer was originally introduced
Mhm.
and the internet came, there were a lot of people at that time who were allowing their stenographers and PAs to operate the computer for them.
Okay.
They survived it for themselves. But then what happened? Most of the banks were headed by such people who were all tech savvy to such an extent. They made it, mandatory and compulsory for anyone and everyone to be computer savvy. Now take the case of a board meeting of any institution, including bank. All the directors, most of them are above 70 years. There is no paper at all. Everything is available through computers, and they are so much tech savvy. They're all 70 plus. Now, very recently, as you know, this year, the AGMs are conducted online. Now, most of the shareholders are pretty old people, but they have been given a Zoom connection, and with the help of their children or grandchildren, they are all attending the meeting. In fact, everyone is, on WhatsApp. Everybody is interacting with their children on WhatsApp and grandchildren. So this particular statement that today there is somebody who is not tech savvy, I think it will be difficult to digest. Yes, it may be possible. Some people may not be taking it, but then they cannot survive. Okay, they cannot survive. In private sector bank, definitely no. Public sector bank also, such a breed is totally out.
True, actually, the system has forced people to learn.
Yeah.
This is the interesting part.
Not only forced, it has become a necessity.
Necessity.
I remember in 1980s, people were dedicated to computer in this great country, including bankers, I'm talking about the transition from 75 to 80 and all. And Rajiv Gandhi made it at that time that without computer, we cannot survive. But the bankers were dead against it. Let me put it very clearly. In the training colleges, even this was not being discussed. And, for the initial, starting of computers, additional increments and incentives were given. That was India, 33 years back to it. So that was the transition. People did not visualize, in training always we call it, vision and mission statement. They did not neither see the vision nor had the mission to understand where this world is going. I'm talking about 1980s. But today, where are such people? You follow? So compulsions have prompted them and necessities. And the globalization, there was a word called liberalization, privatization, and globalization, LPG. People were making fun of it in the 90s, LPG, gas and all, So whatever was happening in, developed world, especially Western countries, it was being foo-fooed by the local people. But they thought they are in a cocoon. They can survive on their own. Because having seen this training field, having taken classes on this, I remember taking class on appreciation of custom computers. Computer appreciation program. Can you imagine that? So you may laugh at it. You follow? And paying incentive to staff members to operate computers. But from where to where we have come, So it is not the necessity. Even today, there are so many things happening in other parts of the world. If we keep our eyes and ears open, which is bound to happen it here also tomorrow. All the banking changes which has taken place in this country have come about because of the nudges from World Bank, from world banks and banks in the Western countries, whether we like to admit or not. The fact cannot be denied. There is something called capital adequacy ratio, Basel, recommendations. These not were originated in India, anti-money laundering and KYC. These are not originated in India. Because these are all compulsions from abroad. Now you go to a bank. You cannot be sure whether your account is opening or, operative. Suddenly they may say, so your KYC is not completed. KYC, know your customer. If you are not operated for 2 years or something, you will not be able to withdraw your own money. So what all changes have taken place? These all compulsions. Whether you like it or not, that is why in L&D it has been mentioned that nobody likes changes. Change nobody likes. Everybody is happy with their own cocoon type of a living. But then that cannot be done in an LPG environment, liberalization. We want the best of everything. We want WhatsApp. But then you should be prepared for the risk associated with it, right? But we have learned in the hard manner. We could have learned it in the easy manner also. Being a faculty, I'm telling, we were seeing that, where this trend is happening. And we have written on that. We have tried to put it across, Nurturing Excellence, a book I wrote almost, 15 years back. So there are so many books. In the West, it has been written. But we were very slow to learn. But we have picked up very fast. They say, we are very fast in picking up. When there is no alternative, you have to pick up very fast. But why don't you voluntarily pick it up? It's something like discipline in the schools. Punctuality is stressed to us from day one of our school days. Do you remember that? But where do you find punctuality? Do you find it in training colleges? To start with it. So that is another point. It is better to learn voluntarily. Otherwise, it will be enforced on us. It's something like mask. Wear it voluntarily or else fine will have to be paid. Same case happened in the banking and the finance field also. How many regulators came in the last 40 years? You know that. There was only one Reserve Bank of India when we were working. But when you now list out the number of regulators, that will be running into that, they themselves will have a list today. So all these developments are good. And it is necessary, since we are talking primarily under the fold of learning and development, it is better that we pick it up voluntarily, willingly, joyfully. There is a word called embrace change. Embrace. Now, how many people are embracing change? If you don't embrace, it will be put on you, actually. Which one you want? The choice is before us, And I recommend to people, have it, pick it up. It's something like the child which has to anyway go to school. It is better it voluntarily get up and go and, abide by it. That will make the change. The bankers have learned it in the hard manner. I'm talking about the public sector banking, and they got a run from the private sector banking. I remember the change when the ICICI Bank came up in somewhere in 1994. Mm-hmm. It was totally different. But when the ICICI and HDFC came, the public sector bank had to change overnight. And they did change. That's a different matter. But what was the alternative? When people tasted the malls and, other things, when the Kirana fellow on the, nearby is giving, online supplies nowadays, even the vegetable fellow is giving online supplies. But it could have come voluntarily. But anyway, better late than never.
Very true, very true. Even in our daily life, we experience it. Each time we asked the vegetable vendor, for example, if I tell him, भैया आप भी ATM मशीन रखिए, मैडम बहुत महंगा पड़ता है, but आज की डेट में they have to have the machine, they have the Paytm number, they have Google number, they have that Paytm code displayed. So all those QR codes, they have now become so rampant nowadays. It's everywhere. We just copy the code and transfer money.
When the demonetization happened, I for one felt that we will have widespread, what is called digitization. Petrol pump. Most of the people who uses the petrol pump have got their card, debit or credit card. But then again, we went back to cash economy. Everywhere, only cash was accepted. Then the COVID made it compulsory now. Even milk, even vegetable, even bus ticket. Can you bet?
Yes.
How the nature compels us to do certain things, which we are so reluctant to adapt. Forget about embracing it. You follow?
But really, these things stand out. You said voluntarily, willingly, joyfully embrace the change. And if we do it voluntarily, we won't require to discipline ourselves through force. Wonderful, wonderful, sir. going ahead with this great insight, I would like to ask you, like banking sector being one of the highly regulated sectors, we do know all. How do you ensure managerial effectiveness in these COVID times?
One aspect, it's a very, very, very nice question, and it's a far-reaching, question actually, because in the last almost 15 years, Indian banking is done on three pillars, sort of. One is called risk management, second one is called regulation, and third one is compliance. You can put it whichever way you want. The risk management. The word risk management was not heard of maybe 20 years back. It's a new word, risk management. Of course, the banking is having risk. Living itself has got risk, so there is nothing new about risk. But risk management within the banking parlance was a new entrant. So anything and everything can be related with a risk. COVID is the greatest risk now we are having. Okay. Now COVID is a risk which has affected the banking. The banking performance has gone for a toss. So that is the greatest risk now we are facing. I remember attending a program on risk management, I think conducted by Deloitte, consultant. So they had given a beautiful chart in that particular conference. And the chart had something like 200 risks listed in that. And I had displayed that chart in my cabin for almost, I think, 7 to 8 years. Whoever comes to my cabin, I used to show them, look at the risk we are all facing in the banking industry. Are we aware of it? We knew only 2-3 risks. One is called forex risk. One is called currency risk. One is called, legal risk. Like that, 4-5 risks are there. That is, with that, we survived for 30-40 years of our banking. But then today, everything is a risk, And there, this particular consultant had put it in a beautiful chart. Somehow I lost the chart. That's a different matter. But I loved the chart. It was covering one full wall. So whenever I used to go to a class, I used to look at some risk and used to take a class so easily, And most of those words are not heard by our local audience at all. What I want to say here is, this risk came through the back door to us in every manner. And the Reserve Bank had to wake it up. Because I have worked in Reserve Bank of India almost 40 years back. So I know the transition of Reserve Bank of India very closely over the years. If somebody goes to Reserve Bank of India today, they will not be recognized the Reserve Bank of India of the 70s. Now huge departments are there only on risk, regulation, and compliance. Every bank, if you go, there are huge departments on risk management. There is huge people on compliance, and of course, definitely regulation. And Reserve Bank of India has become extremely strict now. Of course, they were strict over the years. It was not that Reserve Bank was not strict, but today it is a transformed Reserve Bank of India. People are mortally afraid of Reserve Bank of India, unlike Esther years. Esther years, they were, friend, philosopher, and guide, and they used to give advisories, but they hardly used to take punitive actions. Today, if you are pursuing the papers, you will find Reserve Bank fining banks after banks crores of rupees. No bank is escaped. So no bank can say that we have not been seen, fined by RBI. Of course, I don't want somebody to come and say that my bank has not been fined. But my point here is, biggest of the banks have faced the wrath of RBI. And the RBI is doing what is called on-site inspection and off-site inspection. Most of the, inspection today in this particular era, digitalized banking after say 2000, it's all off-site. They don't come to the bank at all nowadays for most of the cases. Only the data is sent. And through the data, risk-based audit and other things concerned, they can, by sitting in Reserve Bank of India, they can find out what is happening in the banks. And see the measures taken by Reserve Bank of India in the last few years. I don't want to mention the names, but people can never get away from the eyes of the central bank. They have actually followed Of course, sometimes comparison is not liked, but the banking regulation in places like USA and UK and are all totally different for a number of years. Are you getting that? The regulation in foreign countries is totally different. Even a small country like Singapore, if you know, the regulation is totally different. Not only banking regulation, even the police regulation. Am I right or not? So that regulation has come to the banking scene in such a manner that even in the bank where I have worked in the last, there are exclusive department on risk management headed by general manager level. You know, very senior executives exclusively watching what are the risks. Daily they are watching what are the financial risks, what are the different types of risks faced in the bank. And the employees are cautioned to such an extent that they think 10 times before an action is taken. What is the risk which we are carrying? Are you getting that? It can be compared with today's COVID era. What risk we carry if we don't wear the mask? Like that, even a small slip, it will have implications. Now, because of such tight actions by Reserve Bank of India on the one side, definitely under the guidance of the Government of India, what has happened? Our banking sector is doing extremely well. Even in 2007, 2008, when the whole banking in the world went for a toss, Indian banking survived without much problems. Are you getting that? So the credit goes to Reserve Bank of India and the regulatory measures it has taken. Of course, some of the banks may not like the Reserve Bank of India, but then it is for our benefit. Are you getting that? No regulator is liked by anybody. No auditor is liked by anybody. No faculty is liked by anybody. No parents are liked by anybody. You know, all things are for the betterment of the society, the customers, the bank, and finally the country itself. You know, so the full credit goes to our regulators. There is always a saying, are we over-regulated? No, definitely not. Regulation can never be over. Take the case of the cyber security, for instance. You follow? Considering the country and the number of transactions taking place in the country, the very fact that such things are happening seamlessly, there's a word called seamlessly, you know, in the touch of a finger, the money is transferred. Whether we could have imagined such things would have happened, you know, maybe 10 or 15 years back. And who made it possible? Yes, all the banks made it possible. But have they done it voluntarily? No. It is with the nudge from Reserve Bank of India. So I will say that, yes, the risk is there in every turn of our events. The regulation is the need of the hour. So a compliance culture has been built in. There are now qualifications of certificate in compliance. Institute like Indian Institute of Bankers has made it mandatory. Many people have to pass this examination in subjects like risk management, regulation and compliance, so that no banker can say tomorrow that I am not aware of it. A compliance culture has been built in. Now no bank can say, I don't know what is AML and KYC. Now ignorance is not at all a bliss anywhere, at least in the banking. Of course, customer also. Am I right or not? So everyone has to be vigilant. And Reserve Bank played its role exceedingly well. And along with Reserve Bank of India, the training system also played its role. Every training system in the banking industry, starting with NIBM there, there used to be a college of, BTC, Bankers Training College of RBI. Now it is closed. Then there is CAB, again in our Reserve Bank College. Then every bank has got huge training establishments, including cooperative banks. So much investment is there. So many senior people are working as faculty out of passion. You know, they are sharing their experiences. Then there are so many people in the field. So many consultants are there. Today they are all available to come and share their knowledge. See what a wonderful period through which we are passing through.
Exactly. I was just going to comment on that, yeah.
Where I have worked recently, we had brought so many guest faculty. They were happy to come and share their views. So on a platter, we are getting this expertise, provided the bank management is willing to bring them, and whether the employees are willing to listen and imbibe those teachings. you know. So we are passing through a wonderful period. Am I right?
Yes.
IT error itself is a wonderful period. Now see online training. One need not go to America to attend a class or to go to IIM.
True.
Sitting at home, you can take a class for the Jharkhand people or UP or anywhere. What a wonderful situation it has come about. Whether we could have imagined this, but for the disruption, but for the computerization, but for the internet, every one of these things was disliked by the local populace. Let me repeat it. But how the things have changed. What a beautiful setup, you know. So training, people are sitting at the branch, only spend half an hour. You can get the updated knowledge. Visit internet, you get information, anything under the sun. Ask Google. What a wonderful period. But did that make our people more competent?
That's the question.
Did our employees more socially conscious? Whether employees are better than yesterday's employees? Are they more marketing savvy? Are they more having expertise in banking than yesterday's people? These are questions to be addressed, at least in private. In public, all of us will say, well, they are doing very well. But ask the management, ask the top people, ask Government of India, ask Reserve Bank of India, ask regulators. What will be their reply? This is where the L&D comes into the picture. This is where trainers have to play their role. This is where the employees also have to rise to the occasion. That is a subject by itself. I hope you see the line of thinking on that.
Truly, it's been, hearing you has been an eye-opener, because banking is so related to all of us. It is so a part of us because everything is driven through banking. It drives commerce, it drives our economy. And you've given wonderful insights. And really these challenges that are we now more capable? Are we now more competent? Has digital learning made us more competent? These questions are to be addressed by L&D. Very well said, sir. Very well said.
And related point to that here is, here we come to the L&D at the core of it. What the L&D has addressed so far, one they try to do the, 4 dimensions of quotients are there. One is called the physical quotient. Even in training, we nowadays take yogas and other things. Okay. Then comes intelligence quotient. All our education is only on intelligence quotient, giving information, skills. Then, of course, in the last 20 years, we entered into a word called emotional quotient.
Emotional quotient.
But we have still to reach the last thing called spiritual quotient.
Beautiful.
All the employees, all the regulators, all the government people, all the bureaucrats, all of them have to realize what is our purpose in life. Why are we working? Why this job is given? Is it for employment or for money? If it's for employment or money, our outlook will be like this only. Chalta hai, dalta hai. No. I remember reading from books like Stephen Covey's book or even our Veda Upanishads. What is our contribution as a human being? I have worked for 47 years. What did I contribute? When I look back, am I happy? Is it the job or is it the salary? Is it the promotion? Is it the perquisites? Is it the comforts? Is it the name? Is the fame? It's all positive enough. What I have left behind? Did I leave a legacy? This question has to be asked by each and every human being. It's not the role that matters. Even if it's a peon or if it's a PM, everybody has to finally ask the question, what am I contributing? So I feel our L&D has to play a role there. We are quite adept in teaching the first 3, PQ. And, even there are now training, in remote places. People are taken to hiking, rafting, and so many things we do. But why don't we spend time on spiritual quotient?
Spiritual retreat.
Now I understand. IIMs have started it. You go to now Google and see the classes taken in IIM and all, but it has come quite late. It has come very recently. But at least they made a start. But have they made a start in the schools? in colleges?
No.
Have they made it in training colleges? No. I was afraid of taking a class on spiritual quotient. Somebody will say, whose spiritual quotient are you talking about? So what we have to understand is there is only one spiritual quotient. There is a birth and a departure, either in organization or in the world itself. What have we contributed? I think L&D has to play a great role. The HR has to play a great role. The principals have to take a great role. The CMDs have to take a great role. And finally, the participants must imbibe that they are not doing a job there. They are contributing. When they are serving a customer, whether it is rural or urban or metropolitan, they are touching the lives of the people. When I start operating the mobile, I want it to be operated. And if it's not working, I get upset. So somebody back home has to work there. So they are all contributing. We are all touching the lives. Have we really succeeded? Did L&D succeeded in that? Being an L&D man, I am asking the question to myself. Did I address this? That's my books are all on those subjects. If you look at my title of the books.
Yes.
It is only on human development, self-development. We are all thinking about developing others. We are all thinking of finding fault with others. You ask a MD, he will find fault with his staff. You ask any superior, you will find fault with colleagues and others. Have we ever found fault with ourselves? Have we done the self-introspection? For that, you have to go to spiritual courses. But is it our age to go to spiritual courses now? Is it to be taken up after retirement? By that time, it is too late. So you go to a particular branch, you go to some Kalau, tomorrow you come. Everything tomorrow, standard reply. But I want it today. That is another important area. So how do we develop that feeling that I am contributing? My role is limited here. We are all passers by. This too shall pass away. There is a beautiful saying. People like us who have passed through that can say now that is passed away. Now what is the use of talking about I could have done that, I could have done that. I came across a beautiful example. Retirement is something like a fused bulb. You know, it's all over. When the bulb is burning, give the light. You know, whatever role you can do. If each employee in whether banking or in any sector, if they ask this self-question, am I contributing?
Am I contributing?
The world will undergo great change. Yes, being a philosophical student, being a spiritual quotient person, I may have a larger perspective. But we must imbibe that in the smallest of the small, in every sense. It should start with this. I have written in one of my books that all this education, emotional quotient, spiritual quotient must start in our school days.
Yes.
Not when they come to IIM. By that time, it is too late. You can change a sapling, but you cannot change a coconut tree, you know. That is what we have faced in training. People are reluctant. I used to use 3 words. One is called punctuality. Second is called mobile etiquette. Third one is a smiling culture. These 3, if it is achieved, I used to say, well, the Everest has been climbed. But could I achieve that? A question I continue to ask.
Amazing, amazing, really amazing. You know, this question that am I really contributing?
Yes.
And am I really doing something voluntarily?
Voluntarily.
Asking this question also, I take from what you have said, asking this question also, am I doing it voluntarily, willingly and joyfully?
Yes.
And am I contributing?
Everybody is doing because of the compulsion. There is a circular coming. In fact, this is a circular. Compliance means what? Regulation means what? It is forced on you. Bank should comply voluntarily. I should keep my house clean, not because the government is telling me. Am I right or not? That all of us know. But we don't keep our neighborhood clean. Am I right or not? So that's the $1 million question. This is where the L&D has to undergo a 360-degree change.
360 degrees. Super. You said it very, crisply that I should clean my house not because government wants me to do. It is because I want to clean my house. I want to keep it clean.
Just
That must
willingly.
come willingly.
And all of us are doing work at home willingly. Nobody is asking us. Am I right?
True.
Why that culture did not come even after so many years of L&D? With so much of training, so much of internet, so much of spiritual talk even going on. Why is it not happening? Because if you go to Singapore, your behavior is totally different. You don't throw your, cigarette butt or anything anywhere in Singapore.
Nothing.
You will not cross the, road if the signal is not on. I've been in Malaysia one day, somewhere in the midnight, the cars stopping at the signal where my hotel was here. I wondered, nobody is there on the road. No, somebody is watching. There is a word called Big Brother watching. There is a book called George Orwell's Big Brother. Do we want big Brother everywhere? Do we want a CCTV for everything? Look at our Indian, traffic signal. If there is no policeman, what happens?
People jump.
Complaints must come with it. And I think I am coming back again and again. The L&D faculty, the L&D professionals must play the role. Every class, there is something like a mandatory. The class should start on time. How many classes are starting on time? Ask yourself. How many sessions, how many programs, how many things here start on time? You can take it worth it. Oh, but ठीक है भाई. एक बार ठीक है, दो बार ठीक है. No, 10 o'clock has to be 10 o'clock. Now we have started this particular thing. Started at 7:30, 7:30. It cannot be 8:30. Am I right or not? So we must bring the culture, a competence. These are all competence of different level. Competence is a very wide word. Excellence is a very wide word, And we have tried to nurture it from school days. Where have we gone wrong? So this review is not taking place sufficiently. Yes, there may be pockets of excellence, but there are oceans of, lethargy. Oceans, Pockets of excellence is definitely there. But even in the best of places, you will find, hey, this could have been better. And dil mange more. All of us want the best. And if you have seen some foreign countries and other things, you'll say, why not here? Why it's not available in our country? This mobile banking, I think I saw it somewhere in some countries some 20 years back. And I asked that fellow when we were going on a picnic, hey, show it to me. What is this? He said, no, I can. I said, when this will come to my country? And of course, it did come. Ye dil mange more. So when you see something better somewhere else, when you see something happening on time, you want your things to happen on time. You don't want a chalte hai reply for anything and everything. So for that, I feel every employee must ask this question every day while getting up and going to the bank. What I'm going to contribute today, not the salary, not the bonus, not the promotion, and not the recognition. Everybody wants recognition. But the customer here wants his service to be done. And we are all customers somewhere or other. Even today, when we ask for a vegetable, we want it to come in time. We ask him, Kabhi aayega bhai? It's not that if you order the vegetable now, you want it in the evening. You want to cook something. Am I right? So even that vegetable fellow has become so competent. Why not our educated people who are having everything? They are working in the most comfortable conditions. Take an average bank employee. All the branches are air conditioned. Can you get such wonderful working conditions? Can you get such a beautiful salary and all? But are they really happy? Because each one feel they deserve much more. Do they deserve the salary of, Steve Jobs? So let us, whatever may be. Today you see the COVID environment. Who were the warriors? One is the press is working in the government hospitals. Without them, do you think the COVID war could have been fought? I find in my own building, every day, this, maintenance staff came all the days. What about their safety? Their commitment, their contribution, phenomenal. So I am sure that that culture has to be built in. If it is not there, if it is already there, I have no, thanks with that. But we come across, because we are customers in different places. Are we happy? Are we happy with the customer service which we get in any organization, including banks? I think that's a different question. Don't you think so?
True. Even when you said this, we need to ask this question to ourselves. We are customers in some or the other form at some or the other place. We really happy.
Yes.
And recently, I have seen that a lot of talks are being held around happiness, satisfaction levels, and happiness has become quite a study nowadays. As
Yes.
Gallup survey says that 80% of the employees don't feel engaged. They are performing, but there is a difference between performing and being engaged. Now, engagement has to, make sure that employees are happy. Then only they will feel engaged. So
Now
all these studies have cropped up.
that takes me to my original question. If you remember in the course of it, I said, we must develop this thing called spiritualism in an individual. One should understand why we are born, why are we working, how we got this particular job. Is it all because of our ability, or is there any force higher than that? A higher dimension to which we should be able to link it up. We quote for anything and everything this book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But how many people have actually read it? If anybody could go through, Stephen Covey's or, Deepak Chopra's or Robin Sharma's, most of these books are touted in India. Am I right? It talks about the spiritual quotient.
True.
And why are we so reluctant about it? And why do we say the employee is not engaged? The very fact that he has given a job itself means he has got an engagement. And he has given a salary, he has given promotion, he is having pension. What further engagement does he want? That is a question one should ask one-to-one, directly. There is no answer. There are people who are coming out of organization getting crores of rupees of salary. Is it because of the contribution they are making? Are they making so much? There are some CEOs are getting, phenomenal salaries. Are they really contributing that much? And they say, I'm not engaged. I'm not interested. It's something like a child at home with all TV channels and say, I am bored.
Exactly.
I am bored.
Exactly.
Then, of course, the alternative is their retirement. Then after retirement, what happened? Everybody want a job back. So this is the paradigm we are having. By working, everybody want retirement. Every retired fellow want job back. So my point here is that we must develop the spiritual quotient, the contribution part of it. Without that, the engagement will become, less and less and less. A stage will come, 100% people are disengaged. They will say, we are working, but we are disengaged. That's what you really find in some of the places when you go. They are looking at you, disenchantment. Their body language say, why have you come here? But still they are serving. That is what I'm saying. Are we getting a woe feeling anywhere? But everywhere you go to a mall, as soon as the bill is paid, they give you a small machine to record your satisfaction index. And out of compulsion, we give, good mark. What is a great thing? But are we really happy? Many people ask over online, how was your experience? We say yes, otherwise they will lose the job sometime there. You know that. But are we really happy? Are you with me? So even if we are not happy with the railways or airlines, do we stand and complain? हम लोग बोलते ऐसा भी निकल गया. No, this is what I'm saying. The competence should be brought about. The
Competence.
people should be made to feel that they are contributing. They are not doing a favor. They are having a duty and responsibility. They have been engaged by the bank for a salary. They are the employees and they must contribute. This nation building, this particular feeling must be imbibed. Whether you call it a spiritual quotient or whatever quotient, this is the excellence I am talking about it. You know, management by excellence. We want excellent workers. Everybody want excellent people. They want excellent doctors. They want excellent faculty, but they don't want excellent employees. Why don't you become excellent? When we go, we want excellent service. Am I right? The doctor should be top class. But wherever I am working, should I not be excellent?
True.
Should I not ask this question? I think I put it in one of my books called Nurturing Excellence. In a rating scale, ask yourself, where are you in 1 to 10? Self questions. If 10 is maximum and 1 is miss, where do you stand? And I asked this question in the classroom. Give your excellent rating. Everybody will say 10. What 10? We know what they are actually. So everybody has got a self-image. This image has to be probably corrected. And the L&D has to play a role. L&D has to really, not talking about a subject which anybody can pick up. How to bring this engagement part. They say, in a country like Bhutan or something, happiness, index is very, very high.
I think we are facing some technical issues. Let's wait. Mr. Balachandran? Thank you for joining back, sir. After this technical glitch, thank you so much. Sir, one last question I would like to ask is, what are the elements of dissatisfaction in the current work culture as far as banking is concerned?
This is again a very, a leading question. They say, always is a very good question. Customer service has been a matter of concern in India from 1975 onwards.
Okay.
And the first customer service committee was appointed in 1975, 73, 74. The report came in 1975 under the chairmanship of one great banker called R.K. Talwar. He was the chairman of State Bank of India. This report is even referred to today in all our training colleges.
Okay.
This is the first report on customer service. It talked elaborately about what the customer expectations are there and whether banks are meeting it. And over the years, so many such committee reports have come. There was again a big committee report under the chairmanship of one Mr. Damodaran. He was the former chairman of SEBI. Again, talking about customer expectation in the digital era.
Okay.
The customer expectation underwent a dramatic change after the digitization. So what are the areas of dissatisfaction today? Let me list out one or two. One is the service in digital banking. There are so many areas of problem there, starting with getting a card, ATM operation, ATM PIN, mobile banking, connectivity. Getting so many issues are there. Though we may say अच्छा चल रहा है, but everything is not अच्छा in the digital banking field. Then, debiting the account without getting the cash. There are so many issues. The Reserve Bank is addressing all the issues. Okay, we are total evolvement in the area of digital banking.
Okay.
It's a matter of great dissatisfaction for the person who really need the money. Okay. Then comes cyber security. Now, cyber security has become a big issue. The frauds are taking place from the account. The money is debited. And to get back the money is not easy, right? You can always say go to police or court. But getting a money debited has its own pangs and headaches. And if you're little elderly, like senior citizens, they find these things extremely difficult. Even for the younger generation, it is a problem. What to speak about senior people? Everything is now driven to digital banking. They may say, you go to the branch and, create a self-pin, for ATM. It's not a joke actually, For youngster, it may be, but all are not youngsters in this country. A large population is senior bankers, senior citizens. That's second point. Then delay in loan processing. Every bank announce, take car loan, house loan, every loan. Now the customers are driven what is called MSME financing. So much of loans are given by the banks. And there is a rule that within 60 days, the loan should be disbursed. And so many schemes the government of India announces. But who has to implement it? And at the implementation level, there are a lot of problems. And the customer will know. The wearer of the shoe only knows where it pinches. It's not the CMD, not the Reserve Bank Governor, not the Prime Minister, not the Finance Minister. It is the fellow who goes to the branch will know where the shoe pinches. Then comes the documentation. Suppose you want a loan, there is plenty of documentation. But there are some banks where, not even one document is taken. The loan is sanctioned over the mobile. And the money is credited by the click of that particular, on the mobile. You can get any amount. No documentation at all. That is one side of banking. Then there are some other banks where documents and documents and documents. Tariq par tariq bolte hai, like that. They get fed up of that. So that is another area of discomfort. Then this KYC, that has become the biggest irritant. You go to a bank and try to withdraw the money, suddenly say, sir, your account is inactive. No notice, nothing. And you can imagine when you have got some money, but you are not able to withdraw. Then they say, bring the Aadhaar card, bring that, bring this. To be on the receiving end is very, very painful.
Good task.
So here again, I'm coming to the competence and the contributory mentality. You see, I used a word called grace, living and living gracefully. I like this word called grace. Work with grace. In that grace, I used to expand like the G for gentleness, R for reasonableness, A for amiability, C for compassion, and E for empathy. Be compassionate to your customers and be empathetic to the customers. When somebody comes before you, you should really be empathetic. We teach this right and left in the learning and development. Am I right or not?
True.
We always say we empathize with you. We empathize with an illiterate farmer. How can we? We have not done any farming in our country. And we are not illiterate also. We can empathize with a hungry person. With all food taken, can you be empathetic? So my point here is, this feeling should be bring about grace in dealings. Be graceful. Be grace in all sense of the term. Make a difference. Leave a good impression. When a customer comes, that fellow should feel that I am really wanted. Today, going to a branch and all is a real pain. They're all sitting under the what is called the plastic shield. You have to shout to reach them. It's a very, very unpleasant experience. And if there is no smile means even under a mask also you can smile. It is a tone that will make the difference. So it is a difficult period for the customer. My full sympathy is for the Indian customer, whether it is in bank or in any other department or anywhere. The customer is taken for a ride. It is what is called what is called caveat emptor. Customer beware. And customer has got a heart. And being a customer in many places, I find it is a difficult situation. So here we must, the L&D or whoever is involved, must develop that feeling that customer is a king. Have you ever felt like a king anywhere in the world so far?
Yes, at multiple places, I must admit.
Yes. That will be just counting, But the customer should feel that I am really wanted, Like the trainee should feel he's really wanted in the training college. And the faculty should feel that he is really wanted by the trainees, There should be a real feeling, a real feeling of camaraderie, a compassion for both the things, Every one of us is doing a job. The job is done for overall happiness. So joy should be the driving point. We are all living for happiness and joy. Try to impart it to others. Just as you want happiness, ensure that other fellow also want happiness. They are coming to the branch or the bank not for anything else, to have their happiness. The money is withdrawn, the loan is taken for some happiness in their life. Am I right? Let us make it happen, Let us make that process easy. Everywhere, government department, anywhere, everywhere, easy to do business, they say. Make it easy, really. Don't make it complicated. This is purely philosophy. It will not come about probably in the next 5,000 years. Because all these things were told by Lord Krishna and in all our Veda Upanishads, thousands of years back. Teachings are aplenty. There is no need for new teachings. But the followers are limited. And people emphasizing are also limited. I have come across faculty members who themselves need improvement. They need this orientation. They also need to ask the question, am I having the competence in this chosen field? So let this question be self-directed everywhere. Then the society will change. It may be asking for the moon, but in Sharama, one day we will reach. Hum honge kamyab. Hum honge kamyab. I want that date to be earlier, as early as possible. We don't have such indefinite period for the sake of the customer. That's why Mahatma Gandhi said, customer is the most important person on our premises. He said it in 1990. 100 years are already over. This is taught in every training college or a government department and all. Hardly there is any fellow who does not know this quotation. Customer is the most important person on our premises. But are we doing that? A question to be asked. No value judgment is made by me. I am only trying to open up a discussion on that. Anybody involved should ask this question. And I think by asking question, you get answers. In Bhagavad Gita and in all our scriptures, for a question, answer is given. I am raising the questions. Answers will follow.
Truly amazing, an exhilarating experience to speak to you and hear you. Truly, sir. And I would like to read this verse from your article, from your website. From joy are born all creatures. By joy they grow, and to joy they return. Tritiya Upanishad. You have written this beautiful article called as The American Dream, and then you elaborated it further regarding your experience when you visited. It's really wonderful, amazing insights, and personally talking to you today, it's been an I will say it's been an exhilarating experience. You touched so many points, And so simple things. Are we contributing? Working with grace, make everything easy, and there is no need to have new knowledge or new teachings. There need to be followers. I think this is profound. And we need, these are the roots, I think, and we need to get back to these roots again and again. We need to touch them again and again. As you said, saplings can be removed, they can be changed, but not a tree. These are profound learnings. Thank you so much for being with us in this knowledge series, sir. And I'm sure that whosoever will watch it or is watching it will definitely feel the way I am feeling right now, and will admire this this whole conversation. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.